And the other thing is like, why do I have to care that much about every single issue that comes up these days in the news? Like, my nervous system has been, okay, since I got on Twitter for our podcast, I was telling my cousin today, I was like, I think I might get off Twitter because, yeah, we've gotten a couple of listens or whatever, but like,
Right.
I have seen at least 11 videos of somebody's death within the last month and a half.
Oh,
Like their
God.
last moments of their life, whether it's George Floyd or the other. I mean, like, and it's not like I even knew what I'm watching. You're scrolling through stuff, and then you click on it and you watch it. You're like, holy, And I'm kind of like, my heart does not handle that very well.
I know.
What am I supposed to do with that? And here's the other thing. It's like, I told my sister this one time. It's like, I don't know if I've told you this before or not, but like, I think I did at one point. I had this dream within the year. I don't know when, but sometime within the last 12 months, where I was in this giant auditorium, and I was like on stage, and there was like a giant council, and it was all these different beings, and a lot of them were like light beings, like they were just light themselves, and then there was all this different stuff. But I was put on the spot, and they said, should the human experiment continue? What's your vote? And I said,
oh my God, that gives me chills. Okay, go ahead.
And I said, I don't know. And they like one side was like reviewing, like was putting all, like even personal stuff that's happened to me in my life, and even just like global events. It was just like flashing like all this information of like all of our bad shit. And then the other side was having all the good stuff that we have, like the love, like all the good emotions and all this, and like my family members and everything I love about being alive and all this stuff. And it was just like, it was like flashing both sides at me. And it was like, so you've been the being this long. What do you think? Should we continue the experiment or not? And I looked behind me, and there was a line of a lot of other humans. So I was just getting a vote.
Everyone was voting. All these people lined up were voting.
I was just getting a vote. Yeah. And I looked at the being that was asking me. It was like a jinn. I don't know what it was, but it was like a big being. And like, it was like blurred out. Like I couldn't even see what it was. And I said, I need more time. I don't know. I need more time. And it said, okay. But, and then like, I heard some voices behind me, like they were unison, but they said something about how like, we'll give you more time, but you have to start thinking about the question for real. You have to start, that's your assignment. You need to know whether or not like that we need an honest vote. You need to start thinking whether or not they should continue.
Wow.
And I said, okay, cool. And then I went on. Anyway.
Wait, I have something that is related to that.
That's awesome.
That's not personally to me, but I was watching this thing on Gaia a couple of weeks ago. It's a program called like, I don't know, interdimensional something, or I don't remember. It's very cool. There's all these different channelers that come on. And actually, Michaela Sheldon was one of the people that are like interviewed, but all these different people come on. So this guy was on, he had 2 episodes, and he told amazing stories about things that have happened to him, from meeting people, like meeting this woman in college, to these group of people, and then having this experience, and they all have the same experience, that they all remember their past lives.
Was this Adam Apollo?
Yes. Have you seen him? Well, anyway, he goes on to say, at the end, he goes to like Burning Man, and he's at Burning Man, and he wasn't there for like the drugs and partying, whatever, but he was there for like this, like a very spiritual, like intention, whatever. So he goes there, and towards the end of his experience that he talks about, it's starting to be like daylight, and he had lived like this crazy night, and he had to go, he and his friend were trying to meet this other woman who was also part of their past life, so they could remember that they were all part of this past life experience, and that they were coming to the culmination of all remembering it together, which I think is super cool. Anyway, so he walks over to like this pyramid that was set up in the middle of the desert, like as one of their art structures, but it was like a walk-in pyramid. And he's out there completely sober, like, nothing, blah, blah, blah. And he's he walks up to it, and he's not with, I think he's alone at this point, and there's this woman there who is not from this planet, and she's standing there, and she looks at him, and she just looks at him like, you know, like, I'm talking to you. Like, she picks him out of the crowd, and he wasn't even sure if he was like hallucinating this experience or whatever. And then I don't remember what the interaction was, but then he wasn't sure that this being, like, she let him inside the pyramid, and he was just like, so they're staying there, and he was like, he wasn't even sure again if he was hallucinating. Then two drunk guys like walk by, and they look at her, and they're like, whoa, man, that's some fucked up shit. Like, from here, you know, like, they're all crazy. And then he realizes like that he's not the only one that's
he's not the one seeing her.
Yeah. So then the night goes on, the morning like starts to dawn, and he's
what did she tell them?
I don't remember what she told him, but it was something along those lines, like, you know, what do you think? And so he looks around, and he sees like these people, and you know, he knows that they're judging. They're the ones looking at how people are acting, how people are interacting, and they're kind of like, these beings were all of a sudden watching from, like, there were like these like little lights all over the desert, that there were these beings kind of like taking votes by watching people interacting at that point. And so he was like, he would look over like at a couple and see like a fight or like this stupid drunkenness, and they would be like, no, you know, and then they would see he would see like people hugging or whatever, like genuine hug, and then they'd be like, yes, and there was like a love, like people like making out, but like so passionately and in love, and like good energy though. And so then they was just like going through yes and no's, and then like at the end of the night, like at the end, and he just started like walking out into the desert. Sun was coming up, and he's just walking. He's like, I don't know how long I walked for, like miles maybe, to the end. I couldn't even see Burning Man, like where it was at that point. He walks to the edge, and like where the city begins, I guess. And then he's like, the sun starts to rise, and then he looks around, and all of these people are there, and they're all in awe of the sunrise, and they're like, whoa, wow, you know, like totally inspired and in love. And then finally the last vote was yes, and he was like pretty much it was like the ending of a good movie, you know, like, they saved the day, thank God we didn't screw up like the human race, we made it. But that was funny, because I was like, oh my God, they're actually taking votes, and you had that same like,
I had that same dream. And I know this sounds silly and it's stupid, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me. Like, and I know I've said this to my sister, and I know I've said it to somebody else, but like, I've told my mom too. I'm like, so like this last half year, I've been trying to be coming out of my shell and be really strong with like being able to take all humanity's stuff on. But then another part of me is kind of going like, whew, man, I might have a vote, and don't make me vote against you. Meaning,
shit. Damn.
I know, but
stay on your good side.
No, not you.
I know,
saying
but I'm
humanity.
Saying.
Like,
oh,
I just kind of feel like it's like, I don't, and that's the thing about the Twitter is like, I don't know that it's healthy to see humanity at its worst, and to see like, get stuff done because this is so bad, and this is this and this and this. It's like we're focusing so much on the negative, and I'm like, if you pull my heart that way, and you do that for everybody collectively, that's the way we will go.
Mm-hmm. I feel that way 100%. That's part of the problem I have with it.
That doesn't work for me. You don't invite me to, it's like Mother Teresa said, you don't invite me to a war protest or a war, anti-war rally. You invite me to a peace party or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'll go to a peace party. Right.
Yeah. Man, I need to be seeing the best of humanity, not the worst. But at the same time, I try to like breathe it in and be like, okay, well, this is legit. Like, this is, I don't feel like this is our only incarnation. I feel like our soul is an immortal being. I feel like I've been other places before this. I think I'll go other places after this. Like, at some point, like when you're in the humanity thing, there's a personal thing to it, and you feel attached to being a human, and you
Right.
feel attached to this reality. But when you're not here, like when you're in your dream time or
It's just another
anything else, it's just
experience.
another experience. So it doesn't really matter. It's like, or it may not
Exactly.
really matter in some ways, in terms of like, well, maybe it is a bad experiment. Maybe we really are, is our nature really violent? And that's why, like, I've been sort of like trying to ask like my spirit guides or my team of things that I don't really have a clear picture of always all the time, be like, okay, like, why did we agree to not remember? Like, what is the purpose of that? And then like, they know not what they do. Like, can we give them, they need a little bit more than what we've got. Like, I know we've agreed to this, but like, they need to know what they're doing. And it's kind of like, and then another part of me will be like, no, that is the game.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like, are we being manipulated or not? Because if we're being manipulated, you can't know our true nature.
Yeah. Right. 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 That's a
You know,
good point.
and that's what I've been trying to argue with them. I'm like, if there really is like this cabal or this like
Right.
matrix system, that's like, if there is this suppression, how do you know what our true nature is? And then it's like, um then the other thing is like, well, no, the game is with this limitations and your abilities, what can you overcome with ground zero knowledge? Like, you are an AI machine, like you are this like engineered beings. Humans are these engineered beings that have amazing abilities, and we are given zero information or instruction manual on on,
Right.
on how to use the machine.
Well, I think that's the experiment.
Yeah, so what can we do with it? And then like, yeah, so I don't know, I don't like having those kinds of dreams because it feels like an awful lot of responsibility. And
But yeah, but in the end, you're
I feel
only,
like,
first of all,
yeah,
we're infinite beings, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, I've thought about this too because I don't want to forget anymore. You know, I want to remember more and more so that I can work at another level, even if it's after this life, like, you know, beyond Danielle. Like I want to be able to remember so that I can just, I don't know, just be more connected to who I am.
okay, so
I
then
don't want to
that
forget.
is actually brings us back to a thing that we've talked about with the alien interview. And
Yes.
the wing makers talked about this in that little bit of a video, and that's why I want to get back to it. And same thing, I've heard it, actually no, who else did I hear? I heard it from another source that I can't remember right now, but if I find it, I'll put it in. And then my friend is Yogi B. John's kid or whatever, and he said that Yogi B. John used to say that, who's like he's like he's like some spiritual guru guy, but used to say that like don't like go to the silence when you die, like don't go to the commotion.
Oh, right.
And then the wing makers talk about going to the light is the reincarnation
Exactly.
trap, which is what
Yeah.
they said in the alien thing. And so I'm kind of going like,
Exactly.
wow, I've heard like that, like this week, that theme has come up for me 3 times. And
Right.
so I'm kind of going like, ooh, yeah, that is very important that's
To remember.
ultimately super very important when you're dead. Like, what do you go towards the light and get and keep on losing your memories and go back and get it's like the memories app. It puts you in the
Right.
tunnel of the memories app.
Yeah, but at the same, I know, I feel like that, like we have to get comfortable with the darkness and to be able to
Mm-hmm.
sit in the darkness and be nothing. But then at some point you're going to have to make a decision, right? Like you're going to be sitting there in the darkness and remembering and then make a decision whether or not you consciously choose to reincarnate or not. Because some people are here consciously reincarnated. In fact, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like maybe before, like one of my contracts that I made the decision to come here,
Me too.
like conscious.
I feel like I consciously came here this time.
Yeah, like other times it may have been more karmic and I was just like pulled into it. But this time I feel like I'm a light worker and I'm kind of keeping, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying my best to transmute. Now, I'm not to say that I'm not saying that I'm cleared for the next life, because who knows if I make it through this one with the continued, if I'm able
Right.
to actually sustain that like level that I want to be at, like to be able to process the tons of information that's coming, and it's super heavy, like the
It
super
is.
heavy energy, and to transmute that and to keep centered is the challenge in this life for me. But I'm conscious of that now, so that helps a little bit. But like at the end, I mean, I don't know, whatever it is, I feel like there's eternity, and All
Mm-hmm.
right. Well, I guess I'll figure it out another time, I guess, when the timing is finally right for me. Like, I feel like I'm not going to worry too much about it. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, should I go to the light or go into the dark? Like, I feel like I'm going to know at that point. And I
Yeah.
also think that there's like a review of your life. Like, you're still going to have this time to
Some
review your
opportunity to
life,
decide.
to decide consciously what it is. Because I feel like with this whole zapping thing and like going back into this, I do think that that's there, but I also feel like we're giving too much power away
To
from our
something else. So,
souls to
yeah.
something else. Like, I feel like, how about just me saying no, or yes, this is what I want? Like, isn't that enough? Isn't that enough for me to consciously make that decision to say, this is, I want to choose this life. Like, maybe I'm going to help in a
Yeah,
different
and
way.
maybe it's just like, hey, I want to remember everything for a little bit. You sit with it, and then you're like, okay, I'm bored now. I
Right.
want to go back into, I want to try this now. Or,
Yeah.
ooh, let me
Or
try this
try a fourth
scenario.
dimension or fifth
Yeah.
dimension. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've like the other day I had I did this meditation and I just started like thinking like, okay, the whole source light thing is just baffling to me, because I'm like, do we all come from the same source? And that whole idea. But anyway, so I'm like sitting there with this idea of source, and that we all came from this one. And then we just decided to like break off into these vibrations, and that's who we've become, and we've come through our experiences, and now we're coming down. But then I realized that we're never really away from source anyway. So yeah, I mean, I guess it really is just about and I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like I always go back to that like one little snippet of understanding I came away from with my mushroom trip, where it was just kind of like I felt like the source energy of everything decided to divide itself into infinite amounts of possibilities to understand itself. And
Right. It's
and
pretty
it's
much what it
like,
comes down to.
yeah, basically it separated itself to it became everything so that it could understand,
Yes.
the nothing, or the everything. I don't know how you explain it, but yeah, I think
And
it just,
also to love everything, like when you can look at something like your friend that's challenging you right now and just love her for where she's at, and just accept that she has, and like for it not to trigger you, to work through that and to just be like, it's okay. Like, it's okay what she thinks. It doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, I have to answer to myself, and I'll understand my own self. I don't need to answer to you why I did or didn't do anything. Right. Like, and then if you're okay with that, and you love her for what she is and who she is, then it really doesn't even matter anymore.
like there's some sort of intentional combativeness that's going on in the societal, and like our there's a collective you're either with or against us, and
Absolutely.
you have to decide on your
Right.
own accord to be with us, or you're
Right.
100% against us. And it's
Exactly.
gotten like that. It's gotten really dogmatic and religious with
Right.
the political shit, like with
Absolutely.
like to
Right.
to
With the
another
health.
level, to another, like people literally think like if you're a Republican, you think Democrats are literally retarded. If you are a Democrat, you think Republicans are literally like, or retarded is a bad word, but you think like they're literally like they're
Like
brain
racists or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like both sides think of the other one as like literally not one intelligent human being is on either side. They're both.
Exactly.
This is the most polarized I've ever seen it.
Absolutely. I was just talking to Pedro about that yesterday. It's super polarized. But we also live in the third dimension. In what we live in is polarized, but we have to, in order to transcend it, I feel that we need to get like to transcend fourth,
I
maybe fifth
think we might be
dimension.
in fourth, because I've
Oh,
heard that fourth is
yes.
about duality.
Right. Oh, fourth is about duality. Then there we are. Actually, I've heard that too. And in fact, I've heard that we're actually in the fifth, some of us, or like those of us that choose to be there, but we just don't realize that we're there yet. Or like
Yeah.
our physical being is catching up with it, but we're actually there. So I was like, oh, thank goodness. But like,
But I have heard the fourth moves quickly. You go through fourth quicker. But
But that polarity, okay, so we're in the middle of it, and we have
Yeah.
we have equinox, we have night and day. You know, we have like this darkness and light
We have
duality.
this
That's
eclipse.
what
Yeah.
it is. What we live in. When I hear about like other planets or other beings that have more than one sun, and like the sun never sets, so they don't have this fear of the darkness. Like we have a natural fear of the darkness because of our history, because of what comes out at night, what can hurt us, what we can't see. So like that makes sense that we have all that, and we just have to like kind of accept that that's part of what we understand collectively, but that we don't have to stay there. We can choose to
Yeah.
move past the duality.
Yeah. I feel like part of me does believe in this, dimensional shifting. And I do think a lot of people are going to get stuck in this fourth thing. But
Yeah,
eventually I think
no.
you get exhausted by it.
It is exhausting. I'm like, I don't want to fight with anybody. I don't even know if this is the right way. And that's why yeah, I'm like, aren't there other voices out there that I can like, what else that I don't know. Like that's another thing, because I feel like, you know, I've given this a lot of thought, and I've been like, as a white woman, you know, who comes from a privileged place and who understands that I can easily, well, maybe not now, but or in my whole entire life, I could easily just choose to not acknowledge systematic racism if I decided to do that, because it wouldn't personally affect me as much, really. But I mean, it does affect everybody, really. But it, you know, you can get past it, you know. And then I was like, how do I come to terms with that? Because is this just that part of me, that self? That was one of the reasons why, like, the thoughts that I had when I watched that video that you showed me with the 12 women, because I was like, or the 13 women, sorry, that, you know, with
Oh yeah, and like
Magenta.
not one of them was of color.
Not one of them was a person of color. And so I was like, you know, like that's important to me. I want to hear everybody's voices too. You know, I wish that there were people at the round table that I can hear, because I wanted to know what their thoughts were with Trump. Like what were their thoughts with anything, really? Like, so that's where I feel limited, because I feel like I want to be able to hear this. And I was telling my mom the other day, and then I was like, maybe that's it. Maybe just talking to people that I can help make their minds shift is enough. Maybe that's enough. Maybe starting with my family and coming to terms and having these conversations is enough. And I don't need to go out to the streets, because I'm having these conversations that are difficult to have, and you're going to have confrontation with the people that you love the most. So maybe that's enough. But anyway, so I had this conversation with her, and I was like, you know, what was I saying? Oh shit. About oh my God, I can't even remember. It was something like,
with the race stuff or what?
Yeah, it was with the race. I mean, she wasn't disagreeing with me, but I just was like, I don't remember. I totally don't remember what my point was with that, but anyway, I did. It's not like the first conversation I had with her. We've talked about this before, and she's open to hearing, and you know, my dad is the one who's more challenging, but that's okay. Like that's okay.
Right.
It's somewhere to start, and what's like, that's for me, that's okay. Like that's the best. If you're able to talk to your family and friends and to tell them your thoughts or your feelings and to listen to theirs, like that's actually huge progress.
Yeah, well, that's how real change ends up slowly happening too, is,
right.
you know, like nobody watches something on the news or, you know, on TV, and then like, you know, it's like, oh, my perception of reality has now changed. I mean,
right.
But when you have a deep conversation with a friend and you really understand what they're going through, that's much different.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, this sucks that it happens with your friend, but I'm sure it's a learning opportunity, you know, and like a growth opportunity for everybody. And even it doesn't even, in the end, it only matters how you deal with it, and that's fine. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to
talk about.
Yeah, but I don't remember.
I definitely know that the Lemurian thing was cool. Oh, the crop circles.
Oh, the crop circles. Yeah, I sent those to you because
I like that.
Yeah,
one like what makes me think that like maybe that one is real, this one that you sent me the other day,
the second one.
I
think they're both real, but why do I don't know.
But let's see, can you see that one?
Yeah, that's the one I thought you were talking about. Okay.
I really, because like for me, I feel authenticity within the pressed ground, when you look at the way the patterns within the ground. when they're really symmetry, and like I like how it has the little, looks like it has the little circular node in the middle, and then even when it does the round things, I feel like that one's likely, that's a good candidate for authentic. Now I don't know about like the EMFs or what's going on, or
Yeah. That's the, yeah, that, I don't think anybody's was in that at that point when it was listed. But yeah, I liked it. Yeah, I started like counting them, and then
I think
people were
it's
like the 12 chalices of like the at the table of Christ
oh wow.
consciousness, and who
Oh, is that,
knows.
I didn't know, I didn't interpret it like that, but then now that you say that, I guess I could see him as like 12 cups on
Right.
a round table.
Yeah, and the space in between, because somebody else mentioned, what about the space in between, which is like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like like my my brain is so like all this, I can't really describe it, but I'm almost out of my mind with all of the little bits and pieces of information. And then
Yeah,
I
because
have to go,
it's hard to compartmentalize them in the right.
right. And for me, I don't really remember things very well. Like I don't remember it all. And yeah, to compartmentalize, but also to like to hear information. And then I read a lot of stuff and I'm just like, why, like people just give their opinions, but okay, no, they'll be like, no, all reptilians are like this, or like, I'm just like, I don't even know what anybody's talking about. You know what? Today my mom goes, no, there's people above, the cabal is above the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And I was like, yeah, but they're
Oh,
still in cahoots. And she was going on about that. And I was like, you know what? I can't, you know what? I don't know any of them. So I don't, and
I
I
don't know
prefer not
either. I
to,
don't
but
either. And I also know that like on Twitter, a bunch of these QAnon people are following us, and then
oh
like
yeah.
apparently a lot of these QAnon people like are into UFOs. So it's like I followed a lot of them back here and there. Like if they follow us, I follow them back, right? The thing is like this QAnon thing, I'm fine with them like being into Trump like taking down pedophile story. Like that's fine. I'm cool with that. But now it's become like a whole like it's like second wave born again Christians basically when you're looking at it. It's just like
I
it's
know.
the way they go on about it. It's kind of like here we go one, here we go all, like it's all this like
Yeah, like here's
American
the
flag,
like pretty
like,
much he's the savior.
and he's like, and Trump, yeah, Trump is our newest coming of Christ, and just, I mean, like it gets like really like
Yeah, it's
Craytown, and I'm like, what are you basing any of this shit on? Like it's, yeah,
right. What are you basing it on? I was like, prior history of what? I'm like, he keeps, there's still, I don't know.
uh,
That's actually a
yeah,
huge problem that I have with, and I'm just like, why is it that all of a sudden, like, how did that happen? I just
and
went
then
to my
yeah, and why
consciousness,
are
and then all
why
of a
are a
sudden,
lot of these why are a
like
lot
these
of these spiritual
extremists.
people like extreme getting into, they've never gotten into politics before, why are they all of a sudden
I don't
like
know.
like
I don't know. Do
Trump
you think that they're
is,
bots and stuff? I don't know. I have no idea. I tried. That's another thing. That's why I got to stay off of Facebook, because I read the same thing and I'm just like, ooh, I don't know what to think, because then I'm like, am I blind? Like, am I like, is Trump like, I don't know. And then I start analyzing him and what I'm not seeing. And then I feel
me
like,
too. And I'm kind of going like, basically every time he opens his mouth, I cringe. So I'm kind of confused. But at the same time, it's like they'll say things like, oh, he took the Federal Reserve away from the private institute and it's now part of the US Treasury. And I'm going like, okay. And I tried to verify that yesterday, and like, I couldn't find that to be true. If he got the Federal Reserve off
okay,
the
good.
private bank onto the actual, like it's its own thing, then
It's
like
not news.
that would be amazing. That would be like, that is part of the biggest
Right.
problem, is that our money is controlled by a private bank. You know, that's who we're in debt
Right.
to, is this Federal Reserve and all that. I mean, the Federal Reserve, in my opinion, is a big problem. But like
Absolutely.
I can't verify what they're saying. Half the things people say, I'm just kind of going like, ugh, okay. And it's always these
Right.
indictments that are always going to be, they're going to be bringing down all these politicians who are
Yeah, I'm
into
like, so all right, so why isn't that
pedophilia
happening?
or
When
whatever.
is
And
that going to
I'm
happen?
like, yeah, hey, in case you don't know, the election for you guys is in about 10 minutes now, so
Right.
you ought to get going with this stuff. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I just, and part of me is going like, none of this is, I'm way more into, like, when I'm saying I'm a light worker, like, I'm talking about like extraterrestrial type, like more broader picture of what is this reality stuff, not Democrat, Republican America. Like, that's
Right.
very narrow.
That's the
Like,
same way I feel. I don't know. It boggles my mind. And then I'm like, so you're looking for a savior in a president? Like, that's, you think someone
yeah,
is going to come and save us? Like, no one's saving us, people. I mean,
no,
there's
and
people in position
especially
that can
not
make
in our
decisions,
politics.
maybe. That's the same way I feel. I'm like, no, the mass consciousness is every person, and also like we all contribute. Okay, so I was thinking about the whole the feedback system, the feedback loop with Interview with the Alien, and like how we're having our
Mhm.
experience. Oh, that was something that came up to me in a meditation once, like recently. That like I like to download stuff, like, oh, like I'm getting this higher light, blah blah. But then I realized, wait a minute, they also are waiting for my upload.
Uploads.
Yeah, so they're maybe. And so I'm trying to consciously upload my experience in a very clear way as much as I can, but everybody has their experience, so those are just going back to the feedback, and like, so that's why I don't even really care. I'm like, all right, well, you can have your experience, but I'm not waiting for. I hope that the consciousness is more about, like, I don't know, just realizing our own potential, our own power, our own soul growth, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't.
I mean, like, I think that that conversation we had about personal sovereignty and that we published a couple weeks ago was actually a very important conversation overall. It's like, look, dudes, like, it doesn't, there's no there's no being. If it's a being, even if it's Jesus Christ or the devil himself, that's a being.
Right.
That's not like that's not the infinite existence of source
Right.
energy. That's a being.
Correct. Right.
And what you have in common with any being is you're in existence right now.
Right.
And that in itself is a power. And we all need to
Yes.
realize that about ourselves and stop looking for, I don't know, some perpetrator or savior, and stop being
Yes.
victims. Like, it's just weird. It's like,
Right.
no.
Well, that's true. That is true. And it's like, well, I mean, at some degree, I have that too, because I'm curious, because I want to know what else is out there, because I want to remember. But then I was like, I'm on this like Facebook group that's like Starseed something or another, and there's all sorts of shades of colors on that thing, about people's ideas and reasons for being there, or whatever. But a lot of questions come up, like, like, oh, I'm from wherever. I'm from the Palladian, I'm Palladian, or I'm like from, like,
Yeah, I
whatever. I'm
stopped giving.
Arcturian.
I don't care about that
I
anymore. I'm
don't
like,
care about that anymore
does it
either.
matter?
What does it matter? Exactly. I was like, so we can have more things that could divide us, or
Right.
like I don't even know. And you know what I'm having a hard time processing right now too is like the New World Order, and how, like, that New World Order and the one world governance, and also unity, and like the crossover between them, and are they separate, and what does that really mean, like what,
Yeah,
because there's a
because
whole.
ultimately, I, in my heart of hearts, believe that countries shouldn't exist.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that, but does that mean a one world order kind of thing? No, that's not. I'm not
Right.
talking about a totalitarian
Right.
regime of, world domination.
Right. Like everyone's slaves to this dominate. Right.
I'm talking about we are sovereign beings who can govern ourselves. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And like
Exactly.
and that's the scariest part about it all, is that while I know some of us are conscious enough to do that, there's so many unconscious people. I really wish for humanity to have a really truly awakening moment. And I think that, like, maybe an alien exposure, or like the sun doesn't come out one day, or like something weird in our reality where we go like, wait, what?
Coronavirus wasn't
Wait,
good
what's
enough.
going on here?
Corona.
Yeah. Like,
coronavirus wasn't good enough.
but even coronavirus is like, it's so like,
Wait,
to me, it's very obvious. It's
sorry,
okay.
just killed
It's
the
it's this
mosquito.
like game. It's like a fear mongering, in my opinion, game of like, it's gonna kill half the world's population. It's going to kill 2.5 million Americans. It's just this, it's gonna, and then you have it stays on surfaces for 4 hours. No, only three, only two, only 4 days. No, actually it's not really, it's not on surfaces. It's not a big deal about surfaces. So, well, actually, no,
No, but I just mean like a large event. I mean,
well,
without
but
getting
that's
into
what I'm
all the
saying. Like,
details.
even within the event, we can't agree on anything about what's happening within the event. Masks are effective. Masks aren't
Yeah.
effective. Like,
But how do you
hydroxychloroquine.
think that's going to be different if there's a
If
day
it
of no
like
sun? How will that be different?
I just feel like people cannot deny that. Like, oh wow, okay, yeah. So like the sun came out, or like let's say the moon just stops moving or stops circle. It starts rotating. Like, let's say the moon starts rotating and we see the dark side all the whole time. I mean, just any kind of weird anomaly where people can go like, wait, something that was there our whole life that we took for granted is just not there.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
I just think we need something to question, like, our unity as a whole, like to question our like, oh, what is this? Is this real? Is this not real? Like, why am I
Yeah.
here? What's going on? So many people don't give a shit why they're here. And
Yeah.
like, I would love to understand that perspective because I don't have that perspective. But
Yeah.
if you can't even wake up enough to even ask the question about like, why am I incarnated as a being at this time in this meat suit? Like, because so many people are even taught that this meat suit is all there ever has been, all there ever will be for you. You were blackness before this and you'll be blackness after that. And if that really is the case, then why would you make it as shitty as it is? Like,
Right. Go and
I mean,
enjoy life.
yeah, like, have a wonderful, fun, like, time, and I always be happy and make every day the best day possible.
Right.
I don't know. I don't understand the psyche of the collective, which makes me think that my psyche might not be amazing, because I think everything is a reflection of like the, what do you call it, like the micro and the macro, and like we are like a
Hmm.
holographic part of the whole, so, or like a piece of the whole. So I feel like, well, okay, maybe I just need to get super figure things out and super fixed and whole and healed within myself, and then maybe all the world will start to reflect that. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think that hits the nail on the head right there. Exactly. Because your perspective of everything else will change once that goes in order. But, we're not perfect beings and we have to accept that too, you know?
Yeah, and
But
I also think, I also do toy with it, like, it's okay that everybody doesn't come to the realization of that we're coming to, or examining the things we examine or not. It's okay if
it
they,
is okay.
that's their journey too, and
It's their journey.
that's part of it. Like, that's part of what Source wanted to figure out about itself.
Experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a really great show. I think I told you about it before on Gaia. That the first season, it's just starting the second season now. But anyway, the first season goes through each dimension. And it was like, and the narrator just explains it super well. The host is like, he's that guy, Matteo, wait, Stefan, I forgot, Stefan De Matteo or something like Matteo.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so he breaks it down, like the source and how it like splits, and then how it's like looks like a splitting cell, like when it multiplies in the third dimension, and all the sacred geometry that goes into it, and like the building blocks of the sacred geometry. So like each level is different, but but like in the first dimension, you know, we're all source and we could see every single thing, but from that perspective of one. So you can see like so and so over there having this crazy experience and see somebody over there having this other experience. And because we're all looking from the same eye at that point, we could see everything, but we're actually not experiencing it. And so we have to go into these other like you know, break off in order to have those experiences, so we can have the experience and give it back to the collective, which is, you know, source, and at some point, and then yeah, and so and then it just goes on and on from there. But one of the interesting things from that was just like, you know, you're like, even with that guy that that I was telling you about, but I couldn't remember his name, and then you remembered what was his name?
Matteo.
No, the other guy.
Apollo.
Yeah, I can't remember names. Yeah, Adam Apollo. He was talking about like, okay, so you go into, and so was like there, it's kind of like this repeating thing that you start with this group of, let's say 12 individual souls that have broken off from source, and you are over the times going to have this experience together. But you'll have experienced, I don't know, let's say you wanted to have like 2,000, 3,000 years of experience, like shame or love or jealousy or something. So you're going to have these like incarnations, and you're feeding back to that collective. So someone else within that collective, that soul group, will have maybe have learned your experience through you having that main experience, and then you'll have experienced something else to give back to that same little collective. And so within that circle, when it's all completed through X amount of lives or over X amount of time or experiences, then you can kind of rejoin as a collective, and you'll have had every experience.
Right, you'll have, and from every perspective.
So yeah. I mean, so that's why you just have to be like, oh, well, somebody else is, they're no less than or more than you, and their experience is no less than or more than yours. It's just their own experience, and they're at where they're at this point in time, you know, like, I don't know, that's what it is. They may be new souls or they may not be, but it doesn't even matter.
Well, yeah, and and for me, it's like they are no equal or lesser than, I mean, exactly. You know, it's like they're just there. I'm sorry, they're no greater or lesser.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like I think we in society are very used to putting hierarchy on everything. So
exactly.
It's very hard to try to get into this is good, this is bad, this is, you know, better than this. Right. And you know, this right. The ranking the system of it is, yeah. And I have to constantly correct myself on that.
Right. And you, well, from a third perspective, you would see things as bad or good because you're having that experience in it. And also with the series, it talks about, like, let's say the second dimension pulled off, and then there was darkness, there was light, but light created a shadow. You cannot have light. You cannot have, you know, light without the shadow.
So like an object without it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So constantly the dance of it was like the yin and the yang came there. So the shadow side was influencing the light side and vice versa. It's just constantly this dance. And then they broke off in order to have that same feeling in the third dimension, which is a physical dimension. So you would be, okay, so that's where maybe that we think that we are, maybe we're beyond that at this point, but whatever, like the third dimension is that duality, but put into physical form. And so there we are. Here we are, like, oh, it's better than or less than, or it's greater than. There's a hierarchy.
So I guess it's all like individual dots on the infinity loop. You know, yes. where you basically like
the dots on the infinity.
Yeah, basically, like, you know, your complete separation to the center.
Yes, the opposite.
Center the center of the infinity is the oneness.
Yes.
To the ever expansion, to the oneness, to the ever expanded, to the oneness.
Yes. Exactly. And they're all little dots along the line. That's right. Mm-hmm. That's the infinity. And and then it's just constantly a cycle in some other way. And then you could even see it like breaking off, because it doesn't just have to be like this. Then it would be like up and down and all these different
all over and big giant fractals of different durations and yeah.
And even again in the third dimension, where that is the triangle, let's say, because you have the two, and then there was a third one, and so that created this triangle of the hierarchy also. So that was, or the different minds, the unconscious, the individual, and the superconscious, or however you want to name it, right? So then that's why we see things as or something that like physically hurt me or physically hurt somebody, and like we consider that bad, right? So yes, we can name that like that, and we can even understand that, but at a different level from a fifth dimension, that is really no better or worse, because in fifth dimension, that experience is just like, it was just like the dark and the light kind of, again, having to help each other in order to have the experience. So the dark is not even considered as something negative at all. It's just considered like the push. And then he gave the example of like the angels, like, okay, let's say the angels are working, and like they're trying to communicate with you to like help you in some way because you've asked for help, but you're not listening and you're not paying attention to their advice. Well, then maybe something else has happened. Something else, they had to put a block in your way in order for you to experience something, whether it's a car accident or some kind of, life-changing event that has happened. And you're like, why did this happen to me? And then you see it as bad, but then all these good things come out of it, and all these other experiences come out of it. But the angel helped in working behind the scenes of putting that there. Whether or not that's true, who knows? But I did like the thought of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess it all kind of comes down to being here now and enjoying the ever now moment, because it is all you have for right now.
Right.
And it also is like, but God, that's a hard thing to remember and keep coming back to, the whole, like, just be content, enjoy the ride. Cause the ride the ride itself is there is no end goal, basically.
Exactly. That's absolutely correct. That's true. That's one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to move too. I was like, I should be enjoying the ride more, life is to be lived and to be enjoyed, like fully, in whatever way it can be. And hopefully it can be for more people. But
I mean, I think some people must think I'm like super wealthy, and like the amount of places I travel and all the extravagant things. Like a lot of my friends are always like, how do you do that? And it's just like, you just have to prioritize that thing. Like for me, adventure and seeing things I hear about and going places, that's a priority for me. Like my weekends, like a good weekend is when if I have to stay local, that means like I'm going to go fossil hunting, or I'm going to go do something or I'm going to go someplace, do something, see something. Like that's just, I've consciously been like that since my mid 20s. Cause I made a decision that like, you only really get like 52 weekends a year. It's not that much. Right. And
so go enjoy them.
Yeah. If you're we need down weekends. We all need down weekends, but you don't need 52 down weekends.
Exactly. Go out and do something.
Go do something. Go see something. If you want. If you don't, whatever, that's fine. But have some fun while you're here, man. Experience a bunch of the physicality of it, because I think a lot of existence is more akin to our dream time than it is to the feeling of things.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's funny. It's true. I mean, that's part of the joy of being in the third dimension, the physicality. That's how people get stuck here, according to, some other thoughts of it.
Or they get obsessed with the
physical, the textile.
Physical, yeah. The tech. Yeah. I could see that. Like sometimes I'll be like, this is heavy. Like, there's a weight to existing in general here. And that doesn't exist in dreamtime or whatever. And so sometimes I think like, I don't know that I like it. I don't know that I personally prefer the heaviness. I prefer the dreamtime. Like I like my flying dream. I like being able to fly and do all that. But
if you're going to be here, enjoy it.
Yeah. But while I'm here,
also like, exactly. And that's what I say too. That's why people get stuck again in the physical, and we're not even stuck, but they could really, really enjoy it. There's the materialism of it, or the food, like the sensations, but the sensations are so extreme. And remember that if we're giving feedback to source or to some other dimensions. We're also, or to our higher selves even, we're giving feedback, and like some of those beings have never incarnated into a third dimension, so they don't really understand what it's like to be in this dimension. And in fact, you know how like things were, like we had talked, like when you think of third, fourth, fifth, but you think of like this high dimension, but like, but it can't be viewed like that either, because the hierarchy of it, like we just automatically say that something else is better, this other dimension is better than the one that we're in. But
yeah, but I kind of feel like your soul signature has been a demon and an angel before. Like I feel like we've all been everything. So like,
absolutely. Yeah. No, but there's some angelic beings, maybe like extraterrestrial type of things, that aren't in the third dimension, is what I'm saying. That soul has decided, or that being has just not gone into the physical form. Like we're in a third dimension, whether it's Earth or some other third dimension. Right. They've never had that physical experience, but we have, which is pretty cool, because if you think about it, like Earth is a serious school. Like this is school every day of our lives. We are in school, and we don't give ourselves enough credit for the work that we're actually doing here, because it's not easy work. And if you're consciously doing the work, you're like, shit, this is fucking hard. This is not easy. Like I have to deal with racism, and I have to deal with these people, and these, like there's just like tons of shit that you have to deal with on a daily basis, in addition to your own health and people you love and whatever. So you're like, it's crazy. So, and I think that we underestimate our potential, and also we just discredit our
ability to,
not even our ability, like our wonderfulness. Like I just think that we don't appreciate humanness
and how important we are.
Exactly. Because just because somebody's on the fifth or seventh or eighth plane doesn't mean that they don't, like, I don't know if they experience envy, but like they appreciate us for being here in the third dimension. And we forget that, because everyone's always like, oh, I just want to, some alien, please come and save me. I want to get out of here. Or like, I want to go into the fifth dimension. And like, yeah, okay, we all don't want to suffer, but like at the end of it, we're in a really hard school right now. So just appreciate the fact that that we all came here consciously at some level, and here we are.
And we're all students.
And we're all students. Exactly. We're all students. I mean, some of us may only be in first grade, and that's fine. And, but we're all students, and there's always something to learn. And we just really appreciate the fact that, like, okay, that person decided to come down here. And if you're conscious that you came here, and another person is not conscious that they came here, but you should appreciate them, that, okay, good. Well, they're just having their experience.
Well, yeah. And we're all going through the school, so we'll all get somewhere with it eventually.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's so like, once I get out on the streets, I mean, is when I start having to deal with other people is when the real challenge comes, like it's easy when I'm home. Actually, quarantine in that sense has been somewhat easy, because I haven't had to deal with people or like interact with them at the same way.
Yeah. That's been an interesting, I miss people now.
Yeah. I miss people.
Yeah.
Exactly. I definitely miss people. No, it's challenging. Whatever.